All right, welcome to the Wing Podcast. We've got Chris and
Rachel.
And we are going to be interviewing Jason Spencer. He'll be talking a little bit about Profit First and how he came about. So let's give him an introduction here. Jason's a professional speaker since 2010. He's a Profit First coach that worked directly with many entrepreneurs one-on-one to implement the best money management system for their business.
Welcome, Jason.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
I'm doing great. Can't complain. How are you?
It's really hot in Sacramento. That's about all I can say right now. No, otherwise I'm doing really good. It's just, it's toasty warm out here.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually just in Los Angeles, and it was freezing the day I showed up. So
honestly, it was still winter 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
now,
that's what it
now
felt
we're
like.
in the dead of summer. It's 103 degrees today. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah, so air conditioning is a real thing.
It absolutely is.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, let's jump right in then.
Okay.
So I guess just full disclosure here, I downloaded the book today on Audible. So I'm you can talk to me like I'm a new person who knows nothing.
That's okay.
Okay.
I've done that before. So
okay. But everything I heard so far from the first, I'm on chapter 2 already. I was like, this is amazing. I love it. Everything really hit home and really resonated with me. So I guess one of the first questions I want to ask is, when it comes to finances, what's one thing that could help an entrepreneur or a person or a small business?
I would say tracking what you got. I mean, the worst thing that any business owner can do is not know where their money is. So what I like to look at Profit First as, I mean, you can do this with anything, not just Profit First, but particularly with this system, give every dollar that you have some purpose. Don't just willy-nilly go spending your money. So if a money comes in, you know where it came from. If it's going back out, you know why it's going back out. Even if that's, you're spending all your money on McDonald's, which hopefully you're not, but, let's say that's where your money's going. Make sure there's a purpose for that. It's like, oh, that $5 went to a Big Mac today. Okay, that was my lunch.
Yeah.
Make sure you're doing that, because otherwise what happens is you get the money in and, let's say you took a deposit from a client for $2,000 for services. You have $2,000 and somehow you magically find a way to spend that money, and then you don't remember why you spent it if you're not putting that purpose to the dollar. So that's really the biggest thing. There's many other nuances to Profit First and accounting in general and other things like that, but definitely if you're not used to accounting and bookkeeping, make sure you start getting a little bit in tune to where your money is going and why.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. And I come from a creative entrepreneur background where creative people typically don't like to track where their money's coming in or going out of. And
that is true.
We are the worst.
I am one of them. So you're not alone.
Yeah. And it's a topic that I think people don't even want to talk about. They're like, I'm just going to shut my eyes and then run my card and hopefully there's money and it goes through. And if not, I'll deal with it tomorrow. So
those are actually some of the worst, not worse like bad that way, but emotionally, some of the most draining and worst calls to take from somebody are the people that on the surface, we all look like we're happy and doing a great day. Oh, hey, how's business? Oh, it's perfect.
Right.
Oh, couldn't be any better. And then I get a phone call from somebody after they've seen me speak or present on Profit First. And by the end of the call, they're in tears because they tell me how maybe it's a husband and wife combo, or they don't really know where all the money is, and so they go to the store or they're buying something for the business, and they have that mentality of, okay, which card can I use today because I don't know which one has money. And that's a terrible feeling to have, and to hear those stories. It's why when I discovered Profit First, I was so enthusiastic about it, and I really wanted to get the message out about it, just because I used to have those fears where, okay, I got 3 credit cards and a bank ATM card. Which one can I use today? And that should never be the case. You should almost always be able to just immediately go for a card and know that there's money there.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are maxed out on something, you should know that's the one you're not going to touch.
I know a few DJs that have done that.
Yeah.
Not me.
That it's so true.
I'll raise
though.
my hand. I'll raise my hand to that. I'm one of those DJs that used to be that way. I really was.
I remember when I went and saw you at Midwest DJs Live 2 or 3 years ago now.
Well, it was 3 shows ago, but 2 years ago,
yeah.
we just had one. So yeah.
Yeah, we had a few hands up in that bunch there. That was for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was a great turnout, about 100 people. I mean, it was packed all the way to the back, and yeah, that was definitely, for as long as I've been preaching this system, it still amazes me to see those hands go, because some of the people in that room have seen me 2 or 3 times and they still haven't implemented anything yet. But every time I give it, they go, "Yeah, I'm still guilty of it."
Right? Like, why are you back here?
Yeah. No, I love seeing people again. I wish they would take that first step before they come back and see me a second time.
And that's okay, for sure.
That is okay. I mean, what's the old sales and marketing adage? You got to see and hear something 11 times before it clicks. So maybe they just need to come see me 10 more times. They'll figure it out.
That's amazing.
Olson, if you
That's
are
how I stay
listening.
in business. I just make sure I have to present this 11 times to somebody.
Right? That's awesome.
We need to get the Midwest DJs board here listening to this here so they bring you back.
They might. You never know.
That'll be 2 times then.
That's awesome.
So, how would you explain finances to someone for the first time? Like they've never touched finances, done anything with finances in their life, either while they're like maybe fresh out of high school, first business, they don't know anything about business finances or anything like that. What would be your explanation to them?
Well, I mean, it could be any number of things without knowing a specific individual situation. But generally, the way that I explain it to people is that finances in your business is a way to show profitability. So if you go to the bank to get a loan, you could show that P&L and say, this is where I'm spending money, this is where I'm saving money or earning money. It's how you pay yourself.
Can I stop you right there, Jason? So let's pretend someone just downloaded the book. What does P&L stand for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Profit and loss.
Thank you.
Loss. I normally don't do that. That's really strange.
You're just a classy guy. I need to keep up.
No, I think it's just I was playing in QuickBooks earlier, and it actually abbreviated it P&L on my reports.
Thank you.
It's still top of mind there. So, but if you go to the bank, they're going to ask you for a profit and loss if you ever go to a loan, or even sometimes credit cards, things like that. So it's going to show where all your expenses are. It's going to show where all your money's coming from, and you kind of add and subtract the two, and they go, oh, you have money or you don't, or rather you're making money or you're not, however you want to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So in your business is going to show the profitability side of things. It's also going to be how you pay yourself. I mean, without finances, without income, you're not making money. You're not going to be able to pay yourself at the end of the day. And in terms of profit first, it's how you manage your cash flow. So profit first translated to accounting and finances is a cash flow system. It's not necessarily a replacement for accounting, or definitely not for bookkeeping, but it is kind of a layer on top of it that allows a business owner who's not well versed in either of those two, bookkeeping and accounting, to be able to look at their bank accounts, to look at their numbers and know that they either have money or they don't. And even once you get in the rhythm of it, figure out where you need to fine tune things to generate more or profit more or pay yourself more. Any of those things will come into play with profit first. On a personal side, it's really affording what you want to do in life. So maybe you're into I mean, I come from a DJ background, but maybe you're into music on the side. So you want to buy a brand new guitar. You can set up a system that allows you to save for that rather than just dropping it onto a credit card. So you might be able to stash away $50 a month until you have however much it is you need for that. So let's say it's $600 that you need after 1 year, just from putting $50 into an account somewhere that you don't touch. You'll have that $600 to go out and make that purchase. The same with a vacation, same with retirement. I mean, retirement is a very similar thing. Anybody that works a standard 9-to-5 job has options for 401k and things like that. So that would be a very similar situation where they're taking that money out of it and they're putting it somewhere that you're not being able to touch it until the time is right.
That's a great way
Is
to
that,
explain
is that
it.
too deep, or do you want some more?
No, I like it. I like it. That's very cool. All right. Is there anything that you want to add about the topic of like business or personal finances that we can learn from you?
You know, I would just say, and I get this a lot. Maybe that's why all those hands go up every time I present on Profit First. There's no quick fix remedy for it. You're not going to get a get out of jail free card with your finances usually. I mean, you might win the lottery, but we all know that you're more likely to get struck by lightning. So don't look at any system out there. If it sounds too good to be true, there's probably a chance it's too good to be true. Either someone's trying to swindle you for something, or it's just a straight up lie, if you will. And I'll admit, I kind of thought that on the surface when I looked at Profit First, but when I sat down and started coaching it, certainly once you get a little deeper into the book, you said you're in chapter 2 right now, probably by chapter 6, you're going to look at a few of those things and go, oh yeah, this is not overnight. This is a long-term thing. And it really is. I mean, you have it in game, obviously, but most people I would say there's really 2, but 3 layers of people that use Profit First. You have your startups that are starting from scratch and really have no background numbers to work off of. So there's no history in there financially. You have those that have kind of dug themselves a hole or certainly could be doing a little bit better. And then you have those that already are doing really, really well, but they want to be more profitable in their business or find ways to generate more revenue. And so those 3 tiers, depending on where you start with those, are going to depend on what your end game is. I mean, you might already be where you think you should be, but sitting down with a Profit First professional coach or an accountant or bookkeeper, they're going to tell you, no, we can go better than this. We can do way better than this. Here, let me show you how. And then if you've already dug that hole, let's show you how to get out of that hole. It may not happen next month. It may not happen 6 months from now. It may happen 2 years from now. But with a coach, just like working out in the gym, it's not going to happen overnight. But working with a coach at the gym, they're going to push you in all the right places to get you to that fit level that you are desiring. And so it's kind of the same with the financial. We make you financially fit is kind of a better way to put it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I really like the scenario that you gave too with the guitar. Part of being financially fit is just making yourself train and wait and having that patience to say like, okay, I want the guitar today, but is it worth going in debt over? Probably not.
I like the word patience. I would have used the word restraint, but I think I like the word patience better.
I will let you use that word.
Restrain myself from buying something big right now. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure. But that's what it is to even, restraint makes so much sense. Just saying like, I really don't need it. And we live in such a fast-paced society. That's hard to do.
It is. And it's interesting because there are a lot of businesses that from the coaching side, particularly from a marketing and sales standpoint, that I research and I do a little bit of a deep dive on. Disney is one of them. Apple is one of them. And the more that I dig into them, the more that I see where they have these little push points for impulse buying. And who was it? I was just looking at, I guess it was Disney, but there's some others that are similar to it too. You know how you can purchase things on your phone. So with Disney, particularly Disney World, they have what they call a magic band now, and it's just a little wristband that goes on you, and everything is tied to it. Your room key is tied to it. Your park ticket is tied to it. They attach a credit card to it so you can buy food and drink with it and everything else. And I don't remember the exact figure, but they said that in the park, people would spend 30% more. It was about 30%, I think, than if they traditionally had cash on them. They just, you don't associate the fact that you're spending when you're not necessarily digging for your wallet and taking out a credit card or credit card is kind of the in-between there, but certainly cash. If you didn't need to dig out $100 in cash and you could just Bluetooth your wrist to something real quick, you just spent $100 and forget about it until you're done with your trip and get the bill.
Right.
So that impulse is certainly there. And I think it goes back to where we started with this conversation, which was, can I put money on this card? Like, can I use this card today to spend something? And being aware of your finances allows you to do that. And Profit First is a system that will get you there for sure. It's kind of the old school envelope system. So you're going to put money into envelopes or buckets and kind of tell your money what it's doing. So going back to giving it a purpose, but at the same time, you know where those buckets are. You can literally open your bank account. You don't need to go into QuickBooks. You don't need to go into anything like that. You just log into your bank and you look at the accounts. You go, okay, I have X number of dollars to spend today. I can't afford this, or I got to wait another cycle before I can do this.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And I think in the book, there's an allusion to the 5 different buckets or systems.
Well, you're only in chapter 2.
Don't I sound smart though?
You do. I mean, I can tell you what those 5 buckets are. Technically, you can have more than 5 buckets, by the way.
Oh, okay. That's actually really good to know. I was like, 5? Just the 5? But
wait till you get further in. They'll add a few more.
When you get a little deeper, there are special accounts that you can use for things.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I want people to read the book. I mean, it's a super easy. Well, I like to listen to books, so it's super easy to listen to. I'm sure it's just as easy to read. So
you're lucky with this one. Mike is a very entertaining author, so you can read it really well. It's an easy read, but certainly to listen to him, there's a few spots in the book that you might wish you had the book itself. Only 1 or 2, and that's where you're really laying out some finances. But he has all the resources for those online, so you'll get to it, and he'll tell you to go to his website. In fact, I think it's just MikeMichalowicz.com/resources or something like that. But he'll tell you over and over in the book, okay, stop the book for a second, go do this, download this, fill this out first, then come back to me. Perfect. And then he even chastises you if you keep trying to go. So make sure you stop, or he's going to yell at you about it, and you're going to wonder why and how. But
okay, that's good to know. I will actually do my homework then.
But he is definitely an easy author to listen to. I've had a few where reading a book is great, and then I go back and listen to the audiobook, and it's the most dry, boring thing I've ever, like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Ladies,
yeah,
I got
was really
7
surprised.
more hours of this. This is terrible.
Right? Yeah, I was really surprised that he authored it and read it too. But after listening to him, I was like, man, this guy can talk, and he can keep my attention, which is great. So
he's one of the best at it, I think.
Oh,
definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Go a little bit off topic here. You should get the pumpkin plan.
Okay.
He's quite. He reads
that
one very well too.
Topic?
Oh yeah. Buckle up.
Well, he's got several books, and I've listened to pretty much all, but way back when he had Surge. I didn't do that one yet, but I did the recent ones.
The toilet paper
entrepreneur.
Yes. Okay.
Pumpkin plan, Profit First, and the newest one, Clockwork.
Clockwork it is. What I will say about Surge is it's kind of an extension to Pumpkin Plan.
Okay.
And hopefully Mike will never hear this. It's not my favorite book in the world. It's not. It really isn't. He did teach me how to coach it, though, because it is an extension of Pumpkin Plan. So I've gone through the coaching programs for Profit First. I've gone through it for Pumpkin Plan and Surge. And unfortunately, Clockwork, they licensed out to somebody else, so I wasn't. Well, I can talk about it and I can do things. I'm not technically allowed to make it an income source.
Got it.
At that point, the lawyers come after me.
We don't want that.
No.
Actually, the husband-wife, is it husband-wife? Oh, the partnership that he has with the girl that's doing it, Adrienne Dorson, she is amazing when it comes to Clockwork. And I can't speak more highly than anybody for that to actually be running it. So there's so much to Clockwork that I wouldn't even know where to begin with it.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's all about systemization and figuring out how to remove yourself from working in your company and on your company even. That whole in versus on, it's kind of how do you get rid of both of them and live your life and let your business run itself. So Clockwork is great for that. Pumpkin Plan by far is actually my favorite book that Mike has ever written. I know it's weird because we're talking about Profit First today.
That's okay.
Well, they kind of go in order.
Definitely my favorite. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Pumpkin Plan, I swear, has got to come first before Profit First. And then after you got Profit First down, then
I
it's like
keep
clockwork.
expecting him to revise and revamp the pumpkin plan side. Like I said, Surge is a little bit of an extension to it, but it can stand alone. But Pumpkin Plan, he learned some things after he wrote that book that led to Profit First. And just in personal conversations with him, I know there's a few tweaks that he would make to the Pumpkin Plan at this point if he could. Of course, it's owned by a publishing company now, so there's only so much he can do until they decide they're going to go ahead and redo a book. But I know when he speaks on it or he presents on it, and certainly when he's coached us through certain things, there are pieces that we have changed from the book, just in things that we've learned over time. Pumpkin Plan came after the first book, which was Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, which was more of a how do I build and grow my company to a point where I can sell it for a lot of money. And then that's when he learned that that's more of an event than a habit. And so the habit became Profit First. Profit First is the training or the procedure, if you will, that gets you to recurring wealth that is just always there. You don't have to think twice about it. You don't have to stress about it every month to how you're going to pay bills and pay yourself and all these other things. Whereas the event side of it, which is more Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, is I'm going to build this giant company and I'm going to sell it for $1 million and I'll be a millionaire. And then you start over from scratch and you're back down to zero the next day. And there was that in between there, which I'm sure you've noticed. I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't read Profit First yet, but you'll notice Mike digs into his personal story in the opening of Profit First.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That was where his light bulb went off. That's where the switch happened. Was he sold those companies that he had and he became a millionaire and he spent all of his money and then something happened and he had to figure something out. And that's where Profit First came from. And so I think that's what he would change in certainly Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, but I think even in Pumpkin Plan, there's a little bit of allusions to those sides of things. And I think he would step away from the selling side of it.
Okay.
Selling your business. I mean, certainly people want to sell their business. Depends on the type of business you have, but I think that's where Clockwork also came from, which was I don't need to sell my business. I just need to teach someone else how to run my business so I can step away from it and make money without necessarily being fully involved in it.
Exactly.
And that's even how Profit First runs today. The headquarters for Profit First, he has a team of about 12 individuals at Profit First headquarters in New Jersey. He's in there on a regular basis, but his main purpose for Profit First is to present. He is the speaker. He's the author of Profit First. That is his primary role in the organization, whereas everybody else at headquarters are the salespeople, they're the marketing people, they're the ones when we have someone that calls in and needs a Profit First professional, they handle that and hand it off to an accountant or bookkeeper that's been certified to do this, or a coach, whatever it is that client needs. They're the ones that handle that. But Mike is kind of the face of it, going out and speaking from the stage and making tens of thousands of dollars an event to do that.
That must be rough.
Oh yeah, it must be really. I'll be honest though, I watch him. We're very good friends. I watch him on Facebook, and I do not envy his travel schedule.
No.
Yeah, the money is one side of it, but being away from a family, he's got 3 kids and his wife, and yeah, I get to watch all of that unfold, and I feel sorry for him sometimes because there are times he wakes up has no idea where he is. Like he'll be in Mumbai one day, and then he'll be in California the next, and back home in New Jersey, and then Canada 2 weeks later, and he's like everywhere. I think he's in the Caribbean right now. There's a big conference going on down there at the Atlantis Resort, so he's down that way now.
Right. That's one of the pickers can't be choosers, right? You either go where the people ask you to, or you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I do want to touch on what you said too about not like selling a business, but keeping it and teaching other people to run it for you. That really drives home the fact about like passive income, and
absolutely.
I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it was like around 60 to 70% of business owners who sold a company wish that they hadn't. Yeah. Because now looking back at it, they can see like, oh, if I would have just developed the staff to run it, I could still be taking that paycheck.
Right. And I think it depends on the type of business though too. I mean, for example, I told you I come from a DJ background. I worked for a what would be called a multi-op, where they were about a dozen DJs in the company. So it was owned by two partners. They had a bunch of people that worked under them as staff. They're kind of in that world already.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I worked with them for 13 years. I went out on my own. Thankfully, that was about the time I met Mike, because I apparently didn't know what I was doing in the first few years. And I dug myself that hole that really needed Profit First. But I was working for myself. So I didn't have that desire at the time, at least, to hire staff, to be able to even sell a company, let alone step away from it and just have it continue making money for me. And I only really figured out that side of the equation about 2 years ago. I picked up a trivia company and started doing that. So I have staff under me for trivia now, where I go out and I still host some of the nights, but for the most part, it's my actual trivia hosts that are going out and making me money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more of a volume game. I'm not going to lie. It's not like the places we host trivia are paying us thousands of dollars, like say a wedding or a corporate client would,
Mm-hmm.
for that kind of private party. But it's middle of the week. A lot of these people are looking to make extra money. It's easy for me to make some extra money because I train them. I give them what they need to go out. They do it. They come home. We're all happy.
Yes.
But the long term is, as this grows, I'm able to remove myself from it again, going into the clockwork side of it, and getting the right people in place to manage and run the systems. And then I just step aside when I need to.
Mm-hmm.
And I let it be its own animal, and it just makes everybody what they need to make.
That's brilliant.
You still need a profit margin. You still need to actually have something that's profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't beat a dead horse that long. It doesn't work.
No.
You do. That is another thing actually that Profit First will do in that cash flow side of it, is it will help you identify things that are not making you money, or the things that are making you money, and where you should focus a little bit more of your energy. I think the process is better described in the Pumpkin Plan book.
Okay.
But it is in Profit First as well, and it allows you to take a look at those numbers. For instance, as a DJ, DJs do a lot of things now. They have uplighting, they have photo booths, they have just the DJ and MC side of things. You have different sizes of DJs, from a little 2-speaker system that you might use at a small wedding to full-blown concert size rig. I mean, it's just all over the map with what they can be. You can see where your money is going once you start breaking those things out through the system. And maybe one of them is not making you as much, or worse, is losing you money.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time when everybody's offering the same thing, so it becomes a price war. That might be the time that you look at those numbers and get out of the price war and just say, okay, I'm not going to offer this service anymore. Like, everybody's throwing in a photo booth now for virtually nothing. I can't make money on it anymore. I might as well stop doing it. That's not true, by the way. That's not a true statement. Photo booths are still very lucrative. It was one off the top of my head there. But when that time comes, which it may, I mean, there are certainly all types of services that offer it. You have photo booth companies that's all they do. You have photographers that do it. You have DJs that do it. I've actually seen a florist offer uplighting and photo booth service.
That's amazing.
Oh, boy.
Like, it is one of those things that I guess it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to pull off, so a lot of people jump into it. And that takes me back to why I research companies like Apple and Disney. Is I think the experience side of it is where no matter what happens, you can probably bring something new to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make it stand out from the crowd. It can be different, where different is better than better, really. Like, you want to be different, not necessarily better than the other guy. You want to be different from the other guy so you stand out.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the only place you don't want to be that guy is if you're in a lineup on a police line. That's the only time you don't want to be the guy that stands out as different. Other than that, if you can showcase that difference. I know I say a couple years ago, it's probably almost a decade ago now, photo booths were still starting out as new, but they were definitely all over the place at that point. And this was probably about 2009, 2010 is my guess. They were definitely becoming prevalent in the industry. And we had a group in our area in Northern California that they decided to do instead of the standard photo booth or even the standard video booth, so kind of the boomerang stuff had started to come in at that point, they did a flipbook style. And now you see them in a couple different places. It's not wildly popular, but you'll see it occasionally. But these were one of the first guys, the pioneers, to actually shoot video. They would print it out. They would staple. Well, they say staple. I don't know exactly how they binded it together. And then you would have a little 150 or 100-page flip book that the video you took is now turned into stills, and you just flip through it, and that was your photo. I mean, it was amazing. It was incredibly labor intensive, but they were one of the first guys I ever saw do this, and it was just amazing. And then what they could charge for it, because it was a whole different thing.
Yep.
Like, it was not what you were going to get from somebody else. So now their revenue comes in and picks up because it's that different thing.
Exactly.
And that's really how I look at all of Mike's books. Is they're a way to set you apart from the crowd, a way to be different from that crowd, and then Profit First comes in and teaches you what to do with that money once you get it.
Exactly.
I mean, that would be the summary of all. Was it 5, 4, or 5 of Mike's? I don't know. I have one that's not released yet, so can't talk about that book right now.
Talk about it.
No, I can't, because it probably won't be the next book. He's usually working on 3 books at the same time.
Oh
so.
boy. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's so true what you're saying about the photo booth stuff. So just kind of as like people are listening and thinking about this, like, what is the photo booth in your business? Like, what's the one thing that you feel like has been done over and over and over again, but how can you make it different and stand out? And sometimes what I found in business too is just taking that and saying, you know what, I'm just going to make this like a, higher price point, but make it included, and people just like the convenience. Sometimes that's different enough.
Chris, you said you had not read Surge yet, correct?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to make a Surge reference here.
Okay.
Now you're going to put this on your to-do book, your to-do list to read a book. But based on what we were just talking about with the photo booths and making it different, that's not always the case that you have to do in terms of what can I do that's new.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's what has happened in the past that I can build upon. So a good example of that in the entertainment industry right now, at least for wedding DJs, is, in the 70s and early 80s, we had a lot of vinyl. We had a lot, and nobody liked lugging it around, but there was a lot of record player, vinyl, all that. And there are some brilliant people that can do things that I would never be able to do. But even just the basics of playing a song from a record, it's kind of I don't want to say a talent, but it's a art form that has gone by the wayside. So you went from records to not really tapes. I mean, there were people that used tapes, but the records to CD to now it's all digital, MP3. A lot of people are using what the industry refers to as all-in-one controllers. So they just have their laptop and this piece of hardware, and that's it. There's no more records, no more nothing in there. And over the last couple of years, the record side of it, the vinyl side of it, has come back into play. Not necessarily the true, I went out and bought this record and I'm going to play it today. I mean, you might still have the laptop and the MP3, but the art form of playing from vinyl has certainly made its way back, and it's in a huge resurgence right now. And I think that's somewhere that a entertainer of a DJ caliber, so wedding entertainer, corporate entertainer, anything along those lines, they can learn those skills, and they can be, again, different from the mainstream crowd now, because the mainstream crowd is really kind of just pushing play on a piece of hardware, whereas on vinyl you can do a lot of other things that people want to watch. They will watch a person on a true turntable stylist. They will watch and watch them go to town. And if you know how to do that, you can make a ton of money doing that, because it's not something that's mainstream anymore. I feel like in the 80s and probably even early 90s, it was still fairly mainstream, especially in nightclubs, that you would see all of that, and you didn't get paid a lot for it. But it's an art form that's gone by the wayside, and so now it's starting to recycle its way back in. I think that's the same with DJs and video. I'm not a fan of it, but it's certainly a trend that is out there. Karaoke would be the same way. You can do video with karaoke now. there's all these things that you think about and you go, well, why hasn't this been there the whole time? And then you realize, well, it kind of was back in the day. Like I used to sing along to MTV back in the 80s. I really did. I was a kid, but I used to sing to it. That was my karaoke. And then it went to boring words on a screen. And now you get the video with the words on the screen when you do karaoke. It's just a way that everything kind of cycles back through. Same with cars. I mean, electric cars are the rage right now. Few people realize electric cars were some of the first cars ever invented. Mm-hmm. Before the actual combustible engine, it was electric vehicles. They just were incredibly unsafe. So they made it back then. Now they found a way to package it up a little better. So you can do that in your business. You can look at what's old. How can you make it new again? Is it going to make you different? And how quickly can someone else replicate it? In other words, how long can you ride the coattails of it before it's suddenly no longer profitable for you?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's great. That's great advice. I love that. And even, I mean, you can find that in any industry too. Just like
absolutely.
Yeah, the riches are always in the niches. So anytime you can like pinpoint something that nobody else is doing or no one that's willing to learn, that's when you're going to see the cash roll in.
And some of it is just pure innovation. So kind of sticking with a music theme there's the Sony had the Walkman, right? Back late 70s, early 80s. I don't remember exactly here. 83, I think, might have been the first Walkman that came out. And it was like a brick, but you had the Walkman and cassettes and everything made huge impact. And then a lot of people think that the iPod was what really killed that, but it wasn't. Sony released their own product to kill one of their own products, which was the Discman. So CDs came out, and Sony kind of just started battling themselves as to whether they were selling CDs or tapes. And then the iPod came along and kind of ruined it for everybody. And certainly the iPod was not the first MP3 player. There were several other ones that were out on the market before Apple dropped the tiniest thing that we can even remember right now. I mean, it held like 100 songs at most, something like that. I mean, it was not a lot. I think it was 1,000 songs. You could hold 1,000 songs, something like that. But think about where we've come just from that. I mean, that was 2004, 3, something like that was the first iPod, and the first iPhone was 2008. Here we are 11 years later, and we're still using phones, but they have hundreds of times more capabilities to them. We have app stores with all these different apps we can download that are more powerful than most of our computers.
Yep.
That's just in a decade of an iPhone, really, when you think about it. I'm curious where things will go next. I don't know how they expand upon it, but you see it in every industry. You had Blockbuster that was put out by, you had mom and pop stores that were put out by Blockbuster that was then put out by Netflix. And now Netflix essentially evolved the streaming industry to where everybody's jumped on that. So you got your cord cutters, the Comcasts of the world are going away, Time Warners of the world are going away, and you have individual studios that are releasing things. So everybody now pays more by subscribing to Netflix and CBS All Access, and Disney's got their own coming out at the end of this year. Just all these things, I've done the math. You add it up, and your $100 cable bill suddenly became $150 a la carte. And you wonder how that happens, but it does. It does. It's really hard. Really hard to look at those numbers sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. And convenience again is such a huge driving factor of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I'll pay you whatever you want to have everything on one device. Like, why not?
And sometimes it doesn't work that way. I still have I have PCs for certain things that can only do PC things. I have Macs for certain things that only do Mac things, and I hate it because I have way too many computers in my hands. It's terrible.
I'm with you on that one. I got 2 PCs and a MacBook and an iPad.
Yep.
And an iPhone and an Android phone.
And then I found out most of my Macs and my iPads are not going to support the new operating system that comes out at the end of this year. So
oh no.
Means I'm almost to the point where I have to upgrade everything again.
Apple wants you to upgrade.
Yeah. Well, most of them are 2012 and 13, so they're on the border of it, but that means they probably don't work.
Yeah.
They definitely don't get all the features.
So, Now that we talked about most of Mike's books here already,
I'm a Mike fanboy. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm,
Again, he's my mentor, so
I'm with you on that one. I like all of his books and his audiobooks. Like you said, he's a great narrator, easy to listen to, and everything like that. So what we'll do is we'll put the link to his book on Amazon because I see you forwarded that to us already. So we'll go ahead and put that up on the description and on our social media. So those of you that are listening can go out and check out the book, download the audio book copy, the Kindle version, whatever your flavor is, shall we say. Also, do you have any other suggestions as far as other books, podcasts, radio shows, or?
Before we jump off of Mike and his stuff, Mike does have a few podcasts that go hand in hand with Profit First. So there is actually a Profit First podcast.
I'm going to go download that now.
Yeah. What episode? I was episode 100 something, I think. I don't know. I was on there for something for DJs, but you're going to find that podcast. It's usually, the early ones were a little bit different because they were getting their feet wet. But once you get past about episode 50, I think, it's mostly entrepreneurs, or you get a Profit First professional that is certified in the system. They come in and they talk about their niche specialization. So you may have someone who works with Amazon resellers and they're talking. You might have someone that is, they work solely with pizza chains, and then they come on and they talk about their experience with their clients and where the numbers vary here and there versus what's in the book. So that's a good one for that side of it. If it's not the entrepreneur talking, it's a certified Profit First professional talking with Mike and his co-hosts on that. He has another one called GMAP, which is called Grow My Accounting Practice. Because keep in mind, most of what's behind Profit First are accountants and bookkeepers. I'm not an accountant or bookkeeper by any stretch of the imagination. I will get to a point where I need to call my own to figure things out. In fact, I just did this morning for something on taxes related. So, yeah, there's only a threshold that I can get to before I'm happy. But that particular podcast, I will be honest, there are some very inspiring and very knowledgeable guests that come onto that podcast. I would recommend checking it out. Beyond that one, another great podcast and book is Jesse Cole, Jessie Cole. And I did not send you guys this one, so make a note of this one. Jesse Cole, you'll know him better as the guy in the banana yellow tux. He is the owner of the Savannah Bananas. His brand, his way of being different is every game he's there in a bright yellow, full-blown tux. Think Dumb and Dumber. When they had the orange and the blue.
The ruffles.
Exactly like that. Top hat and everything in banana yellow. And Savannah Bananas is a AA league, I believe, out in Savannah, Georgia. And they just kind of flip-flopped it. They sell out every single game.
Really?
They actually have packages that are unlimited food and beer. They do entertainment in between things, so the players on the teams will actually entertain in between innings. They have just done so much to change the image of that AA league, that, or even baseball by itself. I mean, just ways that they go out and they entertain. And so Jesse tells his story of how they bought the team for way more money than it was worth. And him and his wife bought the team. They basically lived in a 1-bedroom. I'm not even sure it was 1 bedroom. It might have just been a little tiny studio loft type thing. Like mattress on a floor kind of thing. They were still working their jobs while trying to grow this in the first year. And they stumbled upon Profit First, and they started applying those principles. And now it's a massive multi-million-dollar company. Probably billion now that I think about it. But I've seen him present before. He is an excellent presenter. He does have a podcast. I don't remember the exact name of it, but seriously, if you search for it's probably the Yellow Tux podcast. I think that might be the name of it. But Jesse Cole, Cole, he is an excellent one to listen to. I know I sent you a few other ones. I just can't remember what they were.
I don't know. I'm not going to say it right.
Cherie.
There you go.
Cherie. As soon as you said that, I knew who it was. Yeah. Cherie Alexander is an influence coach.
Okay.
I don't know that she has a podcast. I have taken a few personal mentorship classes with her, and we're, I don't want to say friends necessarily. I mean, we're friends on Facebook, but
Isn't everyone?
yeah, I was gonna say everyone is a friend on Facebook. So we certainly have conversations on a regular basis, but we're not going out to dinner and having drinks and stuff after every event.
Not yet.
Not yet. But she is fantastic. She comes from a CIA background, so more of, she actually refers to it as the dark arts of influence. So she knows all the ways that a CIA operative would basically try and get information out of you, and then she takes those techniques and applies them to sales and marketing. It's not anything that if you've ever researched sales and marketing, it's not necessarily anything you've never learned before, but it's presented in a way that's so unique that you kind of go, huh, I never thought of it that way. And so Cherie's, if you just go, I think Cherie, SHARI-Alexander.com. That's her website, and you'll be able to see everything there. It's worth $1 million. Thankfully, she doesn't charge that much for it. But
awesome.
It's not cheap, but it's definitely worth it. I've done 2 programs with her, and she does have a mentorship as well. So they'll do a monthly program where, not monthly, but it's a program where weekly they hop on a call, and it's almost like being in a mastermind, but you're doing the call once a week, and they actually have a calendar scheduled out as to what they do. So they'll go over a topic a week, and then on the 4th week, they have a special guest that comes in, and they'll talk with the special guests and kind of get different pitch ideas and things like that. What I love most about it is being an influence group. They allow you to write a script. So let's say you have copy for a website page that you're going to do. Maybe it's just a one-off sell or something like that. You can submit it to the group, and they will break it down for you and tell you where you went wrong and what to do to fix it. It's really amazing, really amazing. So I love that group. Another one, if you've never checked it out, and this is another one that I don't think I sent you. I got it back here. Have you ever heard of Dan and Chip Heath?
I have not.
Oh my gosh.
Chris,
we got to get you some of those books then, I think.
All right, send them on over.
Okay. Dan and Chip Heath, Made to Stick is the book you really want to look at, but there's also, they have a new one, it's hiding behind my Profit First book here, called The Power of Moments. This one came out about a year ago, but this book is amazing, and you really should check that out if you've never read anything by them. But Switch, Made to Stick, Decisive, and Power of Moments are their 4 books that they have. And they do have a podcast as well.
Okay.
I don't listen to it on a regular, but what I have tuned into it is really good.
Okay. And I see something in here, a Facebook group.
A Facebook group, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks
you probably
for
know
bringing
about that.
I know a little something about that.
Awesome.
So there's a group, if you search for it, it'll be called Ask the Profit First Professional. It's actually run by a mastery level certified Profit First professional bookkeeping company. There we go. She's got about 1,800 people in there. They're all small business owners pretty much. You will see everything from I just started last week to I've been running the system for 3 years and I have this problem and I feel like I need to move something to do this or do that. And the help you get in there is phenomenal. It's a free group to be in. I mean, there's certainly a line in which somebody will probably suggest you talk to the accountant or bookkeeping firm, but I'm in that group. I see the questions all the time. I respond to a lot of them as well. But it is a great group to be in if you're trying to DIY the process of Profit First and not necessarily work with a paid coach or bookkeeper. Really a good group to be in. So that's Ask the Profit First Professional. You'll probably see a few of them, but you'll know which one it is. Okay. When you see it. It'll be pretty obvious. It's awesome. The biggest one out there.
Perfect. That's awesome. And then do you have like a mastermind that you would recommend, or?
I don't. However, I used to, but I'm working with so many people right now. It's kind of hard to really jump back into a different mastermind. So I would say if you're in that Ask the Profit First Professional group, she does have one in there. Her bookkeeping company is called Sum of All Numbers, and she will do a boot camp several times a year that puts you into a much deeper, in-depth group, but also they step through the whole process of starting Profit First, or if you've already done it, maximizing Profit First for your business.
That's awesome. Cool. And then I'll throw one more question at you because it's not on our question thing.
No.
Yeah. Jason, so you seem like an awesome dude and you're a coach for Profit First. Like, let's say I want to work with you. How do I get in touch with you? How do I get a hold of you? Or do I have to like go through the channels and like lottery
Theoretically,
system?
I would say theoretically the best thing is to go through the channels.
Okay.
You could go to profitfirstprofessionals.com, and when you do a contact on there, I think there's an optional field in there to say I spoke with Jason or met Jason or something like that. So that'll point you in the right direction. But they have a system in the back that whenever you work with a Profit First professional, they have their own system where we run our finances through, and that's where those 12 professionals at headquarters work directly with the coaches and the bookkeepers. So they get to see those numbers, and whenever we have a spot where we get stuck, we can call on them and say, hey, do I need to move this number here or that number there? And so it's kind of, it looks like you're working with just me, but there's really a whole team behind it if you ever were to go that way.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's great.
Yeah.
To know.
So it's just best you go through the headquarters first and then it trickles down. But you can certainly make the call and say, I want to work with Jason, or I want to work with, Holly is the one that runs that other Profit First group.
Okay.
And you could just say, I want to work with that person, and they'll point you in the right direction for that.
Okay. That's great to know. That's awesome. Yeah. Or
plus they go through all the discovery stuff early on. So it's like, how big is your business? What is it you need to learn? Those kinds of things. And then they know that they're putting you in touch with the right person. If you don't go just and say you wanted me, I mean, it would put you in our full, I think it's 350 professionals worldwide now.
Awesome.
Yeah. They're in 36 countries. No, I think it's more than that. I think the book has been translated into 30 languages is what it is. It's ridiculous.
So there's no excuse to not read it or download it.
There is absolutely no excuse. And in fact, there are some derivatives of the book now, depending on what you do. There's one for e-commerce Amazon sellers. There's one for lawyers coming out in a couple months. There's one for contractors. I'm not going to lie, they're not as overtly entertaining as Mike's book, but based on the same principles. So it's still easy to follow. And sometimes actually they're a little bit better in the sense that they do dive deeper into that specialization. So sure. I've talked with Mike on a few terms of writing one for either DJs or wedding or event pros in general, because the numbers are a little bit different, especially when you're working for yourself versus having multiple people in your company. Those numbers start kind of teeter-tottering on you a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he definitely needs one for the wedding industry. It's like
I think he does.
Massive community of people.
It is. In fact, it's interesting because I was the first one to go to just wedding professionals in general. And then about a year later, we had someone come in. She started working with photographers by accident. They just started kind of finding her, which was really interesting. To the point in which about 3 of her clients actually saw me present and then went to headquarters, and somehow it still trickled to her instead of me. I don't know that. I got to figure that part out. But it went to her, and she had these conversations with us. She goes, yeah, they said they saw you. And I go, hey, you know what, take it and run with it. Because, I mean, they clearly need an accountant, which I'm not right now. So do that side of it. And then if we need to pull me in for coaching, then we'll do that. But sure. It's a niche that needs it. Yeah. I was shocked at Wedding MBA when I first presented this 5 years ago. 6 years. Oh my gosh, 6 years ago. I was shocked because I walked off the stage and one of their main keynotes went on after me. So it was the closing keynote of the day at 5 o'clock. I was on at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And walked off the stage. I had a mountain of Profit First books with me that I did not know if I was going to sell. And instead I sold out and actually was taking orders to ship books to people afterwards. Yeah. I definitely struck a nerve with a lot of wedding pros. So it's, and many of them have kept in touch with me the whole time. So just like when you were at Midwest DJs, that was 3 years ago. And you called me up a couple months ago to say, hey, let's get you on the calendar to do this. I'm like, okay, sure. What do you need from me? Send me some books. Okay, I'll send you some books. Here you go.
That's awesome.
Which you do have books, correct? I mean, those,
yes.
I see them sitting there, but are those the autographed books?
These are the
fancy
3 autographed Mike Michalowicz books.
Wanted to make sure we got you the autographed ones, not just ones I could send you from Amazon.
You got us the real hookups.
Yeah.
Yes, he actually goes and signs the title page of these. It gives you a little note. Take your profit first.
That's awesome.
If I'd known we were going to go down the pumpkin plan side of things and clockwork, I probably could have gotten you some of those too.
Well, hey, you can still send them to us, and we'll have you come back.
Well, that's a phone call I got to make. I've asked a lot of favors this year of those guys.
That's okay. They're going to have to add a, did you talk to Jason or hear Jason, like little thing on the contact form on the website.
They should.
They really should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, talking about Mike speaking, that's one thing that we've discussed. Mike and I have discussed on the side a little bit is his schedule's so overwhelmed. He should have someone else that goes out and speaks. I'm like, I'll do it.
Right?
There you go.
Can I make all that money that you make too? No, you can't. You're not the office. Dang.
Can I
really
get
want
a
to do
cut?
that. So,
Can I make that
that's
25,
something
50,000?
who knows down the road? It might happen. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that. I would love to go out and just share Profit First with the world. I mean, it really is something that's changed my business, but the companies I've worked with, from solopreneurs to small businesses of all different sizes, it's just amazing the difference it's made in their business. Even if they're not maximizing Profit First, just where they are 6 months later or a year later, it's phenomenal. I mean, some of them were in debt to $40, $50, $100,000, and they've climbed out of it using Profit First. I was one of those people, actually. I mean, I used it to get rid of $40,000 worth of debt. I really did.
That's awesome.
And it's just really an amazing system. I wish I could fully put it into words, but until you experience that first moment of being able to pay yourself and still pay all your bills and start living off of your money as opposed to scrambling off of your money,
Yes.
that is an amazing feeling. And let's say you already are living off of it, the ability to live better off of it. So if you're doing well, you can still do better. There's
Yes.
always a way to push it further. If you're at a 10% profit margin, you can probably make it up to 20%. It's not that hard. The hardest part is the habit side of it. I mean, it's just like any other habit that you're trying to break, only now you're trying to create one in a sense. And there are guardrails in the system that we put up, so it kind of prevents you from doing things with your money that you shouldn't be doing. That's certainly where the coaching side can come in as an accountability side of it. But there's ways to even hold yourself accountable. You can find someone else that's doing the system. There are actual, they call them profit pods, but there are actual little groups of about 12 people or less that they get together once a quarter. They go over their finances. So it's like a no holds barred kind of thing, share the numbers. And, this is what's in my bank account today. This is where I spent money. This is where I screwed up. What do you guys think? And then you're honest with each other. It's pretty refreshing and scary and terrifying at the same time.
So everyone should do it.
Yeah, I think you should.
Awesome.
Imagine trying to do this in front of all of it. So we do this every year we have a conference called ProfitCon, and it's for the Profit First professionals. This is their 5th year, I think. But we basically do the same thing at ProfitCon. We will have a hot seat, and someone will come up and divulge everything, and then everybody gets the inside track on what's going on in that person's business. And you're like, I'm not alone. This is so
Right?
cool.
Isn't that
I
amazing?
thought I was the only one screwing that part up.
Very cool.
And that's the amazing thing is most people, going back to one of the first things we said, I'm successful, I'm perfect. And then as soon as everybody's out of light, you're in the corner kind of wondering what you could have done better.
Right.
You are not alone if that is you. I mean, nobody wants to necessarily, hey, how you doing today? Oh, it sucks. Like nobody wants to be that guy.
No.
So we never say that, but we all have our struggles. We
Mhm.
do.
Very cool. Cool. I really appreciate you being so real with us. I like that.
I could lie if you want.
Yeah. No, don't do
What
that.
kind of-
Don't do
don't
that.
do that.
Don't do that. No, please.
I just won the lottery last week. No, I'm just kidding.
Congratulations. That's why we got autographed books, right?
That's right. All 3 of them. Those were expensive books.
Yeah.
That
You
autograph is worth
spent them all on
millions of
us.
dollars.
Very cool.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you, Jason, for taking some time out of your busy schedule here and
Absolutely.
helping small business owners, entrepreneurs, and creatives, and whoever else listens to our rambling here and our podcast.
Yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too hard for our
No.
audience today.
No, you're great.
Again, if you're listening to this podcast, follow the links in our social media for a chance to win one of these 3 copies of Profit First that were signed by Mike Michalowicz himself. Also, we are going to be posting some information that Jason has given us for some different podcasts where you can go and purchase the book. Also, different Facebook groups here that he did mention will help entrepreneurs out here. So we're going to throw all that in there with that on our social media so you guys can link to those. At the end of June, if you do listen to this podcast, we will have already given away the Profit First books. We're not going to keep them forever here. We're going to give them away at the end of June, so we'll give you a little bit of time
Am
to
I allowed to
get
win
in
a
on
Profit
that.
First book?
I'm sure you got a case of them behind you.
Well, let's not talk about that. my hoarding addiction does not need to.
I was going to say, isn't that why the curtain's up there? You got the Profit First wallpaper?
Right now, no, but there was certainly a time when you would open it and it would be a wall of books. Thankfully, I've been able to sell or give most of them away. So it's not as bad now. Yeah. But there was a time when it was a regular shipment of about 30 to 70 books coming to my door.
Oh,
yeah. It could get pretty violent and rough around here. Be like, where do I put this stack today?
I love it. Cool. Thanks, Jason. And we will be back next episode with some more information.
Sounds good. Thank you.